Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're tackling something I think we've all wondered about at some point. How do our brains actually learn best? I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if we could download knowledge, just like in The Matrix?
Right, that would be pretty handy. While we can't quite plug into a knowledge mainframe just yet, the research on how we learn is exploding right now. It's like we're finally getting a user's manual for our own minds.
Okay, I love that analogy. So, first myth to bust right off the bat. The whole idea that our brains become fixed after a certain age. I feel like I've heard that one forever.
Oh, it's definitely a persistent myth, but thankfully completely untrue. Our brains are incredibly adaptable throughout our lives thanks to something called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity. Sounds a bit technical. Got a way to make that click for me.
Sure, think of it like walking paths in a forest. The more you walk a specific route, the more defined that trail becomes, right?
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
Well, neural pathways in our brains work similarly. The more we practice something, the stronger those connections get.
So even if I haven't played the piano in years, those piano playing pathways are still in there somewhere, just waiting to be revived with some practice.
Exactly. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. It's an ongoing process, not just limited to childhood. Whether you're picking up a new language or learning to code, your brain is constantly adapting, forming new connections.
That is so encouraging. This is giving me hope for all those skills I've kind of put on the back burner. Okay, so what LSE is surprising about how we learn best?
Well, one factor that often gets overlooked is the role of empathy. We actually learn most effectively from people we have strong relationships with.
Really? I would have thought learning was more about, focus and information, not necessarily WHO's delivering it.
Here's the thing. When we feel a sense of connection with someone, our brains release oxytocin, that hormone linked to social bonding and trust. Well, it actually helps to synchronize brain activity between people. It creates this sense of shared experience.
Whoa, wait. So if I'm learning from someone I trust and feel connected to, my brain is literally in sync with theirs, making the learning process smoother. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And this might be one reason why online courses, while convenient, sometimes have lower completion rates compared to in-person learning.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's harder to build that same level of connection through a screen.
Right. There's something about the presence of another person, the nuances of their voice and expressions that enhances the learning experience. It taps into our innate social wiring.
So a great teacher can really make all the difference, not just because of their knowledge, but because of the connection they foster. That's powerful.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment where the student feels safe, supported, and genuinely engaged. Okay, but I know you want to ask about something that's been buzzing lately. Creativity. It seems like everyone's looking for shortcuts with AI, wanting to skip the hard work of memorizing things.
You read my mind. It's tempting to think AI can do all the heavy lifting, but there's something it can't replicate, right?
Yeah.
True understanding.
You got it. You can't apply creativity to something you don't fundamentally grasp.
So even if I have access to, all the information in the world thanks to AI, it's not the same as actually knowing it.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You could feed an AI all the data about painting techniques, color theory, art history, but it wouldn't necessarily create a masterpiece.
Because it's missing that spark of human insight, that ability to connect ideas in novel ways.
Exactly. Creativity builds upon a foundation of knowledge. You can't write a symphony without understanding musical scales, right? And you can't design a groundbreaking invention without a deep understanding of engineering principles.
So it's not about skipping the fundamentals, it's about using those fundamentals as building blocks for creative expression.
That's it. AI can be a powerful tool, but it's augmenting human creativity, not replacing it.
That's a really good point to keep in mind, especially as we all navigate this new world of AI. But okay, let's talk about something else. A challenge we all face these days, especially in this digital age. Attention. How are we supposed to focus when we're constantly bombarded with distractions?
Oh, it's a huge EE struggle. It's just how our brains are wired, They're designed to notice novelty and change, which makes it so hard to resist that ping of a notification or the urge to scroll through social media.
Tell me about it. So how do we fight back against these attention hijackers?
Well, to understand that, we need to look at a part of the brain called the lateral prefrontal cortex, or LAT-PFC for short. Think of it as the brain's executive control center. It holds the rule set for whatever task we're trying to do.
Okay, so if I'm trying to write a report, my LAD PFC is holding the rules of grammar, organization, all those elements that go into creating a coherent document.
Exactly. And here's the key. The lab PFC can only handle one rule set at a time.
So, multitasking, that's a myth.
Essentially, yes. We're not actually doing multiple things simultaneously. We're just rapidly switching back and forth between tasks.
And that switching comes at a cost, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Every time you switch, there's a cognitive delay as your brain reloads the appropriate rule set. It slows you down and makes you more prone to errors.
Oh, man. So all those times I thought I was being super productive, answering emails while working on a project, I was actually hindering my performance.
Very likely. The more we can minimize distractions and focus on one task at a time, the more efficiently our brains can work.
It's like trying to listen to two songs at once, right? You just end up with a jumbled mess.
Exactly. Our brains thrive on focus and clarity.
Okay, so multitasking is OUT. What else can we do to optimize our attention?
Well, this might surprise you, but the physical space where you learn can have a big impact.
You mean like studying in a library versus, say, a noisy coffee shop?
Yes, but it goes even deeper than that. Have you ever noticed how you can sometimes remember where information was on a page in a physical book?
Oh, totally. It's how my brain takes a mental snapshot of the page layout. I never get that same feeling with digital text.
That's because of specialized cells in the hippocampus, the part of the brain involved in memory. They create a spatial map that's linked to our memories. Physical books provide that fixed location for information, which helps with recall.
So digital media, without that fixed location, might actually make it harder to remember things.
It's definitely something to consider. If you need to really absorb something, printing it out or writing it down could give your brain an extra boost.
Fascinating. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already. Neuroplasticity, empathy, attention, and even the impact of our physical environment. I'm ready for more.
So now let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about some of the challenges to learning, but now let's dive into some solutions, some practical techniques that can help us leverage those brain insights.
Okay, yes. I'm ready to level up my learning game. Where do we start?
Let's start with something that's been around for ages, but the science backs it up. Flashcards.
Flashcards. Okay, I have to admit, they seem a little, old school, especially in this digital world. Are they really that effective?
You might be surprised. Flashcards tap into a powerful principle called active recall.
Active recall.
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
Well, instead of just passively reading information, active recall forces your brain to retrieve it from memory. This effortful retrieval process actually strengthens those neural pathways we talked about.
Okay, so it's like a mental workout for my brain. Instead of just glancing at the information, I'm really making it work to access it.
That's a great way to put it. And that struggle, that effort, is actually a good thing. It's what makes the information stick. Plus, flashcards provide that immediate feedback so you know right away if you're on the right track.
Right. It's like having a built-in tutor there to correct any mistakes and reinforce the right answers. Is there anything else that makes flashcards so effective?
Yep. They help you build what are called schemata. It's like a mental framework in your brain, connecting related concepts. Imagine a web of interconnected ideas.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that. So flashcards help create those connections, making it easier to understand and remember the information.
You got it. By grouping your flashcards thematically, you're essentially weaving those webs of knowledge in your brain.
Wow. Flashcards are suddenly sounding a lot more sophisticated than I initially thought. Any tips on how to use them most effectively?
One thing that really helps, don't discard the cards you get right. Keep reviewing them periodically to reinforce those connections. It's about building that fluency and ensuring those memories really stick.
Got it. Okay, I'm convinced. Flashcards are going back into my learning toolkit.
Yeah.
Now, I want to switch gears to another factor that I think we can all relate to. Stress. We all experience it, but how does it actually affect our brains when we're trying to learn?
Well, we touched on this earlier, but it's worth repeating. When we're stressed, our bodies release cortisol. And in small doses, cortisol can actually be helpful for learning. But when stress becomes chronic, high levels of cortisol can actually damage brain cells.
Yeah.
Especially in areas associated with memory.
Oh no. So basically, too much stress makes my brain less effective. Not exactly the ideal recipe for learning.
Not ideal, no. Stress also impairs attention, making it harder to focus and absorb information. It's like trying to study in a room full of distractions. Your brain just can't function at its best.
Okay, so what can we do? How do we combat stress and create a more positive, brain-friendly environment for learning?
There are a bunch of helpful strategies. One of the most effective, physical exercise. It's not just good for your body, it does wonders for your brain too.
Wait, seriously? Hitting the gym could actually improve my learning abilities?
You bet. Exercise lowers those cortisol levels, releases endorphins that boost your mood, and it even promotes the growth of new brain cells.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here. When I'm feeling stressed, instead of reaching for another cup of coffee, maybe I should go for a run or hit the gym.
Exactly. Any activity that gets your heart rate up and increases blood flow to the brain can be beneficial.
Got it. Movement is key. What other stress-busting techniques work?
Mindfulness practices like meditation or deep breathing exercises can be super helpful.
I've heard a lot about mindfulness, but I'll be honest, it's always seemed a bit, esoteric to me. What does it actually involve, and how does it help with learning specifically?
Mindfulness is all about training your attention to focus on the present moment without judgment. It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
So instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, it's about grounding yourself in the here and now.
You got it. And that ability to focus the mind is essential for learning. When you can quiet all that mental chatter and those distractions, you create space for deeper understanding and concentration.
Ah, okay. It's like clearing the clutter from your mind, to make room for new information.
That's a perfect analogy. Mindfulness is a skill, so it takes practice. But even just a few minutes each day can make a difference.
Okay, mindfulness is officially going on my list of learning hacks. What about nutrition? Does what we eat actually impact our brain power?
Absolutely. Your brain needs the right fuel to function at its best. A balanced diet, rich in fruits, veggies, healthy fats, and lean protein provides all those essential nutrients.
So maybe those late-night study sessions fueled by pizza and energy drinks are not the best strategy.
You might want to rethink that one. Processed foods, sugary drinks, and too much caffeine can impair your cognitive function and make it harder to focus.
So brain food is a real thing. What are some examples of foods that can actually boost our learning abilities?
Think blueberries, salmon, walnuts, avocado. These are all packed with brain-boosting nutrients.
Okay, I'm adding those to my grocery list for sure.
Yeah.
We've talked about exercise, mindfulness, nutrition. Anything else we can do to create that ideal brain-friendly learning environment?
One last thing, and it's often overlooked but so crucial. Sleep. Sleep is essential for consolidating memories.
Wait, sleep? I always thought that was just for resting our bodies.
It's way more than that. While you sleep, your brain is busy processing and storing all the information you've learned during the day. It's like hitting the save button on all your learning progress.
Whoa, hold on. So it's not just about passively resting. My brain is actually working hard while I'm snoozing.
Exactly. During sleep, memories are transferred from short-term to long-term storage. It's like moving files from your computer's RAM to its hard drive.
So if I'm skimping on sleep, I'm basically losing all that hard-earned knowledge.
In a way, yes. Lack of sleep disrupts that whole consolidation process, makes it harder to retain information and learn effectively.
Wow, I honestly never realized sleep was so critical. I'm definitely prioritizing those Z's from now on.
It's honestly one of the best investments you can make in your brain power. Sleep is essential for everything. Cognitive function, mood regulation, overall well-being, you name it.
Wow, this has been amazing. We've learned so much about how our brains work, from neuroplasticity to empathy, from attention to sleep. We've covered so much ground. But I'm curious, is there anything else we can do to boost our learning even more?
There are. We can use a few more strategies that can make a big difference, I think. These are less about specific techniques and more about having the right mindset, I'd say, and creating the right environment for learning.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
One really powerful approach is to cultivate a growth mindset. It basically means seeing challenges as opportunities to grow rather than as threats.
So instead of feeling discouraged when something's tough, I should see it as a chance to, stretch my brain and learn something new.
Exactly. People with a growth mindset are usually more resilient and persistent learners. They believe their abilities can be developed through effort and dedication.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. So instead of thinking, I'm terrible at this, I can think, I'm not good at this yet.
Yes, it's about embracing the learning process, understanding that making mistakes is natural. It's how we grow.
This is making me think about all those times I gave up on learning something because it got too hard or I hit a roadblock. Maybe I need to reframe those experiences as like opportunities to learn and grow.
I think that's a great idea. And it's also super important to surround yourself with a supportive environment. Find mentors, join study groups. Just have people in your life who encourage your curiosity.
So it's not just about what I'm learning, but WHO I'm learning with and the overall atmosphere.
You got it. Learning is a social process, and having a supportive community can make a world of difference. It gives you motivation, keeps you accountable, and creates this sense of shared purpose.
This makes me think of all those awesome teachers I've had. The ones who didn't just teach, but they really fostered a love of learning.
Exactly. A great teacher can really ignite a passion that lasts a lifetime.
Okay, so we've got growth mindset, surrounding ourselves with supportive people. Any other final tips to optimize our learning?
One more, and it's something so simple, but people forget. Take breaks. You need to rest and reflect.
Wait, so it's not about cramming as much as possible into my brain.
Yeah.
I actually need to give myself time to absorb what I've learned.
Absolutely. Your brain needs time to process everything, to make those connections. Stepping away from the material, engaging in other activities, it can actually enhance your learning.
This reminds me of what we discussed earlier about sleep. It's not just about passively resting, it's about letting our brains work their magic behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's all about balance, focused effort, and strategic rest.
Wow. This has been a truly eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how my brain learns. Thank you so much for all these insights.
Of course. And to everyone listening, just remember, your brain is incredible. It can adapt, it can grow, it's capable of amazing things. Embrace the process of learning, challenge yourself, never stop exploring.
That is a fantastic message to end on. As all our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to unlock your full learning potential. So until next time, keep those brains buzzing.